I am the true heiress. By the time my family finally found me, I had already been a zombie in the village for 3 days. The adopted sister gently wiped my face with a makeup remover wipe. My muscular older brother hugged me tightly. Meanwhile, my parents hurried over, one serving raw beef and the other pouring me red wine. Later, rumors spread that the richest family had a weird quirk. They kept a zombie as a pet when the people in the safe zone wanted to capture me. My family shielded me behind them. My little sister just has a bad temper. My sister is just terrible at doing her makeup. My daughter is just a little sick. If anyone dares to touch my daughter, I will withdraw my investments and stop funding the vaccine research. I am the true daughter of the richest family. When they finally got news of my whereabouts and rushed to the village as fast as they could, I had already been a zombie for 3 days. I was gnawing on a dead cow with my head tilted when the door was suddenly kicked open. 4 people surrounded me. My poor sister. My miserable daughter. The cowhide was too tough. I had been biting for a long time but couldn't get any meat. But after turning into a zombie, I was exceptionally hungry. I opened my mouth and lunged at the man in front of me. Just as I was about to bite him, he hugged me tightly, burying my head in his chest. I couldn't move at all. I finally managed to look my head right at his chest. The clothes he was wearing were made of genuine leather. I still couldn't bite through it. Those damn human traffickers will never be able to take you away from me again. Why are you baring your teeth at me? Do you still remember me? Or are you still blaming me? When I was 6, I was useless. I saw you being taken away as a baby. But all I could do was cry. But now, at 24, I have enough strength to make others scream in pain. Beside him stood a beautiful girl. She leaned in close to me, wringing her hands, looking at me nervously. Hello, sister, I am your older sister. Even though we aren't blood related, please don't misunderstand. I was also abducted by traffickers. Mom and Dad went crazy looking for you. At first, they thought I was you. But I wasn't. However, they are incredibly kind people. When they found out my birth parents had passed away in an accident while searching for me, they adopted me. You must have read those dramatic, true versus fake heiress novels. Don't worry, none of that is real here. I will always treat you like my own little sister, to show her sincerity. She held my hand. Sister, your hands are so cold. And what kind of taste does the nail salon in this village have? Why did they paint it this color? It's dark, brown and blackish, like you've been poisoned. When we get back, we'll get you a beautiful custom manicure. A wealthy-looking woman stood beside her, covering her mouth and crying constantly. She carefully reached out and stroked my head. Baby, I'm Mom. My sweet baby. In the blink of an eye, you've grown so big. What kind of wretched place is this, to have raised my daughter to be so thin? And your complexion is so awful. Mom and Dad haven't been idle all these years. We were just waiting for you to come back, so you'll never have to worry about food or clothes in this life. Let's leave this dreadful place and go home. The man beside her had red eyes as well. He turned around to wipe his tears, then looked back at me with a smile. My sister took off the white scarf from her neck and wrapped it around the lower half of my face. I opened my mouth, wanting to bite something, but could only bite a mouthful of fluff. A girl has to protect her face. This place is just too dry. When we get back, I'll share my premium skincare with you. It's super moisturizing. But before applying skincare, we definitely need to remove your makeup. What kind of foundation did you use? Tell me so I can avoid buying it. It looks ghostly white and is even flaking. I let out a series of low growls from my throat. My feet wouldn't listen to me, and I staggered as I walked. My mom and sister flanked me on both sides, supporting me while my brother held onto me with one arm, half dragging me forward. My dad cleared the path ahead, looking back at me from time to time. If you get tired of walking, sweetie, just give a shout. Dad will carry you on his back, just like when you were little. When Mrs. Lee saw me, she screamed, "Zombie. You can't leave." Even if Jyoti turned into a zombie, she is still the daughter-in-line of my family. What a sin, this jinx. My son just paid the bride price for her, and she cursed him into becoming a zombie too. And then he was beaten to death by others. I'm going to strangle her. Now she's dead too. Perfect timing to go to the underworld to accompany my son. A few scattered memories reappeared in my mind. 3 days ago, Mrs. Lee brought Reunited to my house and threw 30,000 yuan on the table. The bride price is paid, so we are taking her away. They'll consummate the marriage tonight. My adoptive parents happily counted the money, nodding enthusiastically without even sparing me a glance. I knelt down, crying, and hugged my adoptive father's leg. I've already gotten accepted into university. I will study really hard. And in the future, I can earn way more money than this. Please don't sell me. I am your daughter. Are you even human? My adoptive father brutally kicked me away. My head hit the corner of the table, and my vision went completely black. I heard his voice ring in my ears. PFFT. You worthless money loser. Let me tell you the truth. I am not your biological father. I clutched my head, a loud ringing echoing in my brain. Many things suddenly made sense at that moment. Why I looked absolutely nothing like them. Why they only ever beat and scolded me. Why, in this so-called home, I had never felt a single trace of love. I grabbed the table and struggled to stand up. I opened my mouth, but couldn't make a sound. I wanted to ask, then where are my real parents? Was I abducted, or was I sold? Seeing me dare to stand up and try to leave, my adoptive father grabbed my hair and threw me to the ground. You were bought by me. You're just a piece of merchandise if I want to, and I sell if I want to. I named you Jyoti, bring a brother, just so you could bring me a son. My adoptive mother, with her heavily pregnant belly, smugly rubbed her stomach. Now that I finally have a son, it's time for you to serve your final purpose. Li Danu, the village fool, drooled at the sight of me. He laughed and clapped his hands, stepping forward and kicking me. Then he threw his entire body weight onto me. It was only then I noticed his eyes were turning intensely red. His skin was turning bluish-purple, and he kept making bizarre, guttural noises from his throat. It was exactly like the zombies in the movies. I trembled all over, fighting back desperately, but I couldn't dodge in time. He clamped his teeth down hard on my neck, Mrs. Lee smiled and pulled him back. Jail the boy. If your wife disobeys, this is exactly how you teach her a lesson. You can beat and bite her later. She still has to be useful to you tonight. She stepped forward and nodded in satisfaction. Marry into my family and give me a grandson. And you'll be blessed with a good life later on. I was dizzy and my vision blurred, but I clung desperately to the edge of the table, crying and screaming relentlessly. I won't marry him. I'd rather die than marry him. Just then, someone outside called for Mrs. Lee. When does the banquet start? Everyone is starving. Mrs. Lee dragged her son and walked out with my adoptive parents. Today is my son's big day. Let's eat and drink to our heart's content. Speaking of which, I don't know what got into the old Wong family's youngest son. When he met our Danu today, he just started biting him. He's probably just jealous that my son got himself a wife. Just keep this wretched girl locked up in here. Starve her for a few meals, and she behave. Antenne. Heart-wrenching screams erupted from outside. I only remember hearing people outside screaming about zombies, crying for help. My consciousness grew increasingly blurry. I could feel the terrifying changes in my body, and tears streamed down my face. I couldn't accept this. I hadn't even met my biological parents yet. Who could have known that fate would play such a cruel joke? It was only after I had fully turned into a zombie that my real family finally found me. Right in front of me, Mrs. Lee plopped down on the ground, slapping the dirt with both hands. She blocked our path, refusing to let us leave. I instinctively despised this old hag in front of me. I poked my face out from the scarf, bared my teeth at her, wanting to bite her to death. The jinx is trying to bite me. Everyone, come look. There's another zombie here. She's the one who bit my son and caused my son to turn into a zombie and bite others. A few surviving villagers, hearing her screams, ran over. Seeing me, their faces turned pale. Jody really turned into a zombie. If we don't beat her to death, she bite people and turn us all into zombies. Mrs. Lee said she's the source of the disaster. So, if we kill her, does that mean the zombie virus will disappear? Mrs. Lee scrambled to her feet, pointed at me, and nodded. Yes, beat this curse to death, and our village will be free of zombies. My brother handed me over into my dad's arms, clenched his fists, and warned the old hag. We are absolutely taking my sister home today. If you dare to stop us, you'll see just how heavy my fists are. My sister covered my ears, and my mom covered my eyes. Your brother practiced boxing for so many years, waiting for the day he could protect you and vent your anger for you. Be a good girl. Let's not look. By the time I could clearly see the scene again, the loudest instigator, Mrs. Lee, had been tied up by the other villagers. My brother threw a massive stack of cash into the air like a boss. The money fluttered down to the ground. The others, completely forgetting the pain from just being beaten, hurriedly bent over to scramble for the cash. When they looked at my brother, their faces no longer showed fear or anger. Instead, there was a trace of flattery and sycophancy. With the zombie outbreak, money was basically worthless now. But people always harbored the illusion that this disaster would pass quickly. To those who had lived in poverty their entire lives, money still possessed a fatal attraction. My brother chuckled coldly. For every bill you pick up, slap that old hag once. Once you slap her, the money is yours. Mrs. Lee shook her head in terror, struggling frantically, but what greeted her was a barrage of resounding slaps. The others, intimidated by my brother's fists and lured by his money, finished beating Mrs. Lee, and then, one by one, with bruised and swollen faces, came over to apologize to me. Zaudi. Oh, no. Young miss, we were wrong. Please be magnanimous and ask your brother to spare us. My brother snorted coldly. Whatever else you've done to wrong my sister, confess it all now. Don't think I won't find out. Looking at the familiar faces of the villagers standing before me, I couldn't stop trembling at first. Then my eyes turned blood red. I don't know if it was zombie aggression or pure hatred, but I just wanted to tear a huge chunk of flesh off these people. I shouldn't have peeked at you showering, and then told everyone that you tried to seduce me, causing you to be cursed by the village as a slut. I shouldn't have stolen the pig feed you gathered, and even stolen the pig you raised, causing you to get brutally beaten and starve. I shouldn't have been jealous that you got into university and told your parents that studying would make a girl go wild. So your parents decided to marry you off to the village fool. With every sentence they spoke, my brother's expression grew darker and darker. By the end, he absolutely couldn't hold back anymore. He cursed out loud and gave everyone who had bullied me another vicious beating. He was practically beating them half to death. My mom listened from the sidelines. She clutched her chest, crying so hard she could barely stand. What kind of hellish life has my child been living all these years? How dare these people? How dare they treat my precious baby like this? My sister let out a deep breath, suppressed her fury, and made a phone call. She said firmly, just beating them up isn't nearly enough. How does that vent our anger? Investigate everyone who ever bullied my sister to pay the ultimate price. My dad pulled my weeping mom into his arms. The guilt and heartbreak seemed to crush his spirit. Et murmurait, from now on, we will never let her suffer even the slightest bit again. I promise I will find someone to cure her. It sounded like a promise to Mom, but also a promise to me. My brother came over to me, squatted down, and smiled with completely red eyes. Sister, I beat up everyone who ever bullied you. Your brother has waited for this day for so long. I practiced this in my dreams countless times. He suddenly choked on his tears, lowered his head, and said, although I'm 18 years late, we're never coming back to this place again. Treat it all like a nightmare. Our family is finally reunited. Let's go home. So, I arrived at the safe zone. The safe zone was divided into two areas: above ground and underground. A small number of wealthy people lived above ground, enjoying the most abundant food supplies and the most comfortable living spaces. The vast majority of ordinary people lived underground. They fought tooth and nail over scarce food, crammed into narrow corners, praying for a return to normal life. But one thing was the same, whether rich or poor. Everyone's attitude towards zombies was pure fear and disgust. Once a zombie was discovered, it would be captured or killed immediately. Right before entering the safe zone, my family discovered that I loved eating raw meat. So, whenever I opened my mouth wanting to bite someone, they would just feed me raw beef. Fearing I'd choke, they'd follow it up with red wine. Eventually, I became so full I didn't even want to open my mouth anymore. I even suffered from a food coma, letting them dress me up however they wanted. My sister's makeup skills were absolute top tier. She worked hard to disguise me to look like a healthy human, restoring my original beauty. My mom would bathe me and dress me in beautiful, comfortable clothes. She gently combed my hair. We have so many clothes at home. Whenever I saw a pretty dress, I'd imagine how lovely you would look wearing it. From now on, you can try them all on for Mom, okay? Adding a hat and a mask. At first glance, I looked just like a normal person. When entering the safe zone, someone stopped us. As a newcomer, you need to cooperate with an inspection. Fortunately, money talks. Under my family's cover, I smoothly made it inside. The wealthy circle was very small. It didn't take long for everyone nearby to know that the richest family had found their biological daughter to pass the boring days. The wealthy elites began hosting constant banquets. However, no one had ever seen me attend a single one. The more I was hidden away, the more curious people became. Among them, the one most interested in me was my arranged fiancé, Mao Bufan. Could she be too hideous to show her face? I heard that the daughter they brought back didn't go through the inspection. How could they let her in without checking? What if she's carrying some disease, or maybe she's just incredibly ugly? The rumors intensified. My dad had no choice but to announce that he would host a welcome banquet for me. My brother and sister had already come up with a countermeasure. They set up a live stream on that day, cranked the beauty filters to the maximum, and let me appear on camera. Then they would announce to the public that I was frail and needed to rest, so I wouldn't meet guests in person on the day of the banquet. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. The guests looked up at the massive screen in the center of the hall. I only showed my face for a few seconds and left the rest of the performance to my sister. All I had to do was hide out of the camera's view and continue eating my meat. But what no one expected was an accident happening anyway. The beauty filters were a bit too powerful, and my nominal fiancé, Mao Bufan, actually fell in love with me at first sight. Unable to suppress his desires, he sneaked into my room. As fate would have it, my sister was downstairs socializing, so it was just him and me in the room. I was wearing a gorgeous dress, sitting on the floor, with a huge plate of raw beef in front of me. I grabbed the beef and shoved it directly into my mouth. Mao Bufan could only see my back, thinking of the stunning girl he just saw on screen. His heart started racing inexplicably. At that moment, shoot. He immediately assumed, feeling a sudden wave of pity, that the beauty was crying. Miss me, you were replaced by that tigress of a sister for 18 years. And now, on a night dedicated to welcoming you, you're not even allowed out. You must feel so wronged, right? I don't believe for a second that you're too sick to see anyone, or that you need to rest. Don't cry. I am your fiancé. I will protect you. The beef in front of me was all gone, and the voice behind me was giving me a headache. My makeup had long been ruined, revealing my bluish-purple skin, and a shred of raw beef was still hanging from the corner of my mouth. He raised his hand, wanting to pat my back. Tout conforme. I turned around, stared dead at him, opened my mouth, and lunged right at him. He scrambled on his hands and knees, pushed the door open, ran out. On screamed. There's a zombie. Their family is hiding a zombie. I chased after him. I had just finished the beef on my plate. But I was still hungry, seeing the raw beef displayed on the banquet tables. I stumbled over, grabbed it, and started eating. The place instantly plunged into chaos. There was no dignity left at all. People were screaming, fleeing, until a group of armed guards pointed their guns at me. President Me, I think you owe us an explanation. Hiding a zombie in here. Are you trying to get us all killed? When my family realized what had just happened, they rushed over immediately. The four of them stood in front of me, forming a circle to shield me in the middle. My sister grabbed a tissue and wiped the meat scraps off my mouth. Oh my, everyone's misunderstood. My sister is just really into cosplay. And she especially loves doing zombie makeup. Look how realistic it looks. Sensing a dangerous aura, I glared at the leader holding the gun, wanting to step forward and bite him. My brother grabbed my collar and smiled apologetically. My little sister is quite mischievous. We've spoiled her too much, so her temper is a bit bad. Please bear with us. My mom hugged me to soothe me. Everyone gets sick sometimes. My daughter is just a little sick. The other guests whispered amongst themselves, we aren't idiots. She is definitely a zombie. Kick the zombie out. Kill the zombie. Furious, my dad smashed his wine glass on the floor. Scowling, don't forget. Whose money is keeping this safe zone running right now? If anyone dares touch my daughter, I will withdraw all my investments. For a moment, everyone looked at each other in dismay. The hall went dead quiet. Dr. Yan pushed through the crowd and stood in front of me. He raised his left arm and brought it right to my mouth. Everyone held their breath. Some people, afraid of seeing a bloody scene, even closed their eyes. I opened my mouth, stared at the round, red birthmark on his hand, and let out a loud burp. Some guests, who had business ties with my dad, immediately changed their tune. Oh, if it doesn't bite, it's not a real zombie. This is their own home. They can keep whatever pets they want. Maybe she's a test subject, specifically for Dr. Yan to observe and study. Dr. Yan works for President Me, so the zombie vaccine research must be progressing well. When it succeeds, don't forget to take us all along on the road to riches. My dad kept a dark expression, and only when his own bodyguards rushed in with their guns did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. The bodyguards, taking orders from our family, and the guards who had just aimed their guns at me, were roughly equal in numbers. It created a delicate standoff. Eventually, Malbufan stepped forward to smooth things over with a fake smile, ordering his men to lower their weapons. Harmony brings wealth. It's getting late. Thank you for your hospitality, President. We'll take our leave. Mao Bufan shot me a hateful glare and reluctantly led his people away. Once the guests were gone, my brother patted Dr. Yan on the shoulder. Thanks for today and for everything lately. Because of you, my sister hasn't completely lost. Yan shook his head. She fought for it herself. I've studied so many zombies, and she's the only one who still retains some human consciousness. Keep working with her, and maybe a miracle will happen. Dr. Yan's words gave my family even more confidence. I was also given a new name, Miduadwo. From now on, I would never again be called Jodi or money loser. Every morning, everyone had their assigned tasks. Mom had never cooked before in her life, but now she researched my diet every single day. Seeing that I only ate raw meat, she worried about my nutritional balance, so she had a bright idea. She blended all sorts of vegetables into a paste and smeared it all over the meat. Later, she even started adding traditional Chinese herbs into the blender, saying it was to nourish my body. Dad, my brother, and my sister hesitated when they first saw this dark cuisine. But seeing me eat it with great relish, they could only shower Mom with endless praise for her culinary skills. My sister was in charge of my image management. She constantly checked my face, legs, and hands. If there was even a tiny scrape, she'd immediately apply the special ointment Dr. Yan had provided. The smell of medicine mixed with rotting flesh was incredibly pungent, but she never showed the slightest disgust. Sometimes, when she was almost knocked out by the smell, take a sniff of her premium perfume and keep working. My brother came up with ways to make me exercise every day. He believed that exercise would strengthen my body, boost my immune system, and he would often dangle a piece of raw meat to tease me, making me chase him all around the yard. He was determined to make my immune cells defeat the zombie virus. Meanwhile, Dad constantly monitored Dr. Yan's experimental progress. Whenever he heard good news, he would pour even more money into the lab. Fueled by the endless funds, Dr. Yan worked even harder. He went from drawing 1 tube of my blood a day to 3. The good news was, he actually managed to develop something. But just as he was on the verge of perfecting the latest vaccine, Dr. Yan's laboratory suddenly caught fire. All the data and materials were burned to ashes, and Dr. Yan disappeared, while my family was in a state of utter panic, sending out all our people to search for him and trying to put out the fire covertly. A woman suddenly appeared at our gate, holding a child and crying. She screamed, "My son was bitten by the zombie in this house." The little boy's skin wasn't even broken. More importantly, his complexion was rosy, and he showed no mutation from a zombie bite whatsoever. The child asked innocently, "Mom, are you the zombie?" I wasn't bitten by. Before he could finish, his mother clamped her hand over his mouth. People from the surrounding area blocked our gate. Leading them was Mao Bufan, desperately fanning the flames. Probably feeling humiliated because I chased him away that night, he sneered. "Having money is useless if you're dead. This zombie will go crazy. She is unstable. Today, it's this child getting bitten. Who knows if tomorrow it will be one of us. President Me, hand over that zombie. And kill her. Then we can all go back to our happy lives. Wouldn't that be better? My sister pointed a trembling finger at Mao, too furious to speak. If it weren't for the fence separating them, her hand would probably have already slapped across his face. My brother stood at the very front, his fists tightly clenched. My little sister hasn't stepped a single foot out of this house recently. You know exactly where this kid's injuries came from. If you keep spewing garbage, I don't mind using my fists to make you all tell the truth. Mao Bufan clapped his hands, and a group of armed men pointed their guns at my brother. Then let's see if your fists are faster, or if my bullets are faster. The laboratory had been burned, and everyone thought the vaccine was destroyed, with Dr. Yan missing. What was even more infuriating was that the Mao family had secretly built a new research facility. They claimed they would continue the vaccine and research if successful. They would sell it at 10 times the price our family had planned. Businessmen are driven by profit. My dad and brother's former partners had been poached. Lately, the Mao family had been busy hoarding weapons and recruiting thugs, uniting with other merchants to take down the Me family. They were just waiting for an excuse to seize all of our family's assets for themselves. Mao Bufan looked at me with a sly smile. Xiaming, this zombie harmed someone, so normally she should be executed immediately. But I heard that Dr. Yan's previous vaccine progress was all thanks to researching her blood. A man in a white lab coat, standing next to Mao Bufan, pointed at my head. This zombie is indeed quite peculiar. I believe her brain is even more worthy of study. Perhaps it will be even more beneficial to our vaccine development. Without prior coordination, my mom and sister immediately shielded my head. My brother picked up a rock and hurled it at the guy in the lab coat. Your head looks like a balloon to me. Let me crack your skull open first and see what kind of garbage is inside. Mao Bufan started manipulating the crowd again. What a family of violent maniacs. Miss Me, were you bitten too? Are you turning into a zombie as well? The others loudly joined in the discussion. The Me family is harboring a zombie and letting it bite people freely. They have absolutely no sense of reason. President Me's claim about leading us to survive safely in the apocalypse is a complete joke. His youngest daughter is the biggest threat here. Hand over the zombie and give us back our safe zone. Yeah, hand over the zombie's brain so we can develop the vaccine faster. And everyone can make big money sooner. Some people were already starting to break down our front gate. My dad sighed helplessly, cast a guilty glance at me, and then spoke up. Give me some time. I will give you what you want. Having received a satisfactory answer, the mob happily dispersed. Mom fiercely protected me behind her back. She stared at Dad in pure disbelief, refusing to let him come anywhere near me. Are you crazy? We've already missed out on our daughter's life for 18 years. Do you want to live in regret for another 18 years? Without our daughter, did we live a good life all those years? Dad repeatedly denied it. I didn't. I don't mean that. I never truly meant to hand our daughter over. My brother and sister exchanged a knowing smile, having understood Dad's true intentions perfectly. Mom, don't misunderstand Dad, the older, the wiser. Dad was just using a stalling tactic, Mom finally realized, and said with a smile, honestly. You scared me, for nothing. Dad turned to my brother and said, bring that thing out. My brother nodded, ran back to his room and brought out a tablet. He played a video. It was footage of that woman biting her own child earlier, along with records of the money transfers from the Mao family to her. This was all captured by the hidden cameras in the safe zone. The Mao family tried to frame us, but it won't be that easy. My sister added, I've already sent the video to the safe zones. Je mets double point 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 security force. They will be here shortly. And Uncle Zhang also confirmed that the Mao family's supplies rely entirely on his provisions. He has already cut off their food supply. Only then did Mom completely relax. She ruffled my hair. Reunited. Go, go. Our duoduo will be completely safe. I tilted my head, still clutching an unfinished piece of meat in my hand, watching them run around so busily. For me, I handed the meat to Mom's mouth and struggled to say a single word, eat. Mom froze for a moment, then hugged me tightly and cried. My duoduo has grown up and knows how to care for Mom now. Once the truth came out, the people who had blindly followed the Mao family were dumbfounded, and they all apologized profusely to Dad. The Mao family suffered an even worse fate. Not only were their supplies cut off, but because they fabricated rumors with the intent to violently seize the Mi family's assets, they were arrested by the security forces. A few days later, Dr. Yan returned on his own. It turned out he had noticed something wrong with the lab. So he hid himself in advance, taking the most crucial vaccine samples with him. The vaccine was basically complete, only needing a few final adjustments before when the vaccine used was officially rolled out. Dad didn't demand an exorbitant price like the Mao family would have. Instead, he provided it free of charge to everyone in the safe zone, whether they were the wealthy living above ground or the ordinary people living underground. With the help of the vaccine, I slowly regained my humanity. I no longer only craved raw meat, and I was finally able to eat and chat properly with my family. Dad looked at me and said, Audio. We'll never suffer any grievances ever again.